Hi, my name is Gary, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the method we're going to use to train our dogs. As most of you may or may not know, training is actually the addition of behavior, increasing a likelihood of a certain behavior, or it's the elimination or decreasing an existing behavior, or this is going to be simply prevent a behavior from happening altogether. So basically, this is what we want them to do, what we don't want them to do, and prevention. 3 types of things that we need to do. So in order to teach them these new behaviors, we're going to need a method in which to let them know this is what we want. And remember that anything that's going to have a favorable outcome, this is going to increase the likelihood of a certain behavior. Likewise, we're also going to need a method to let them know when they're doing something we don't want, or that they didn't do what we've asked them, and that the outcome is going to be unfavorable for them. There's also one other method that we can teach that will help reduce certain behaviors. So when you come home, your dog likes to jump up on you. Well, we need to teach him that when you come home, he wants to sit. And when he does that, the outcome is actually going to be favorable for him. So later on, when you do come home, even though your dog wants to jump up, he knows that if he sits, it's going to be a favorable outcome. Because most of the time, he's going to get some sort of treat, whether it just be a pat on the head or an actual tasty treat. So dogs don't know what we want from them instinctually. So we need to develop a system for you, as it is the owner's responsibility to communicate with the dog, to teach them what they want. So basically, this system needs to develop and continually improve for your benefit and the dog's. So in safe training, we're going to use the safe training method. This is based on scientific theory, operant conditioning. Operant conditioning, it says, in the presence of a signal, a behavior occurs, it will be more of a consistent behavior. It also says that the more times that this behavior and signal is presented with a favorable outcome, that behavior, the likelihood of that behavior will increase. So, it's just as likely, if the outcome is unfavorable, that behavior will also decrease. So, to get a little more into this, but to make it a little more simple, SAFE. This is an acronym. It stands for Signal, Action, Feedback, and Effect. So we're going to start with our S. This is our signal. This is basically, we're telling our dog, do something now. So you want to tell them to do something now by giving them a cue. This can be done with verbal, visual, or tactile. Tactile being possibly a touch somewhere on the body to let them know. There could also be smell and taste cues. Those generally aren't in the basic dog training, but it's possible. So remember, you're responsible for giving a dog the signals to let them know what they can and can't do. You are ultimately responsible for your dog's behavior. So this brings us to the action. Basically, this is whatever the dog does in the next 3 to 5 seconds. So for an example, if I say sit and the dog sits, that's his action. If I say sit and in the next 3 to 5 seconds he doesn't sit, that's also his action. So it's important to remember a couple things. It's important to make sure that the dog has the full 3 to 5 seconds. Usually inexperience, impatience, and a general lack of understanding usually causes people to jump the gun. And by not giving the dog the full 3 to 5 seconds to do what you've done or don't ask, just remember, this is always an opportunity for learning, whether they do it right or wrong. So this brings us to our feedback. This is how we tell our dog we did it right or we did it wrong. Yes or no. So remember, when your dog had 3 to 5 seconds to do it right or do it wrong, you have about 1 second to let them know you did it right or you did it wrong after their 3 to 5 seconds. So again, no matter the outcome, if appropriate feedback is given, learning will take place. So if they do what you ask, favorable feedback. If they don't do what you ask, unfavorable feedback. So what is favorable feedback, you may ask? Okay, so basically this is anything that the dog likes. It could be a pat on the head. It could be a ball thrown. It could be a toy. It could be a treat. It could be an open door to let them go through. But Unfortunately, we only have so much control of just how valuable these are to the dog. So, something we do have a lot more control over is food. Dogs love food. Any healthy dog is going to love food. And this is something we do have, like I said, a lot more control over. So, if your dog is not responding to the treats that you do have, there are two things that we can do. We can skip a meal. This is going to make those treats a little more appetizing when it does come time to train. Your dog's not going to be harmed in any way by skipping a meal. So, skip a meal, make them a little hungrier, and those treats are going to pop out a little bit more. If this doesn't work, then we want to up the ante with our treats. So if you're using a bland dog biscuit, switch to liver. Liver doesn't work, go to chicken. Chicken, no, go to steak. So basically, you just want to find something that your dog will do absolutely anything for. So, using treats day by day forever is completely impractical. So, we need to build a substitute for the treats. So this is going to be our feedback word. So this is basically anything that you can say that lets the dog know that they've done what you've asked and they've done it correctly. And remember, dogs don't understand English. So I could say whatever my feedback word is all day, but unless I actually teach them that this is what that means, they're not going to understand. So for the next 8 weeks, what I need you to do, anytime you give a treat, it's going to be preceded by a feedback word. Feedback word being good boy, good dog, yes. Anything that you want to say to let the dog know that they've done it right. Done enough times, eventually that feedback word is going to gain some of the value of that treat. So that you don't have to use a treat all the time. But it's good to use treats whenever you can. This is going to make sure that that feedback word stays strong, stays powerful. So that when you don't have a treat and you say good boy, good girl, good dog, the dog knows that they've done something right. So, when a signal is given to the dog, there are certain actions or a certain action that you're expecting from the dog. And if you don't let them know, and they don't do it, and you don't let them know that you've done it wrong, then an opportunity for learning has been missed. So, it should be obvious that punishment for not doing what you've asked would decrease the undesired behavior. But punishment can also damage your bond with your dog, or it can also potentially increase the behavior problems with the dog. This is not what we're looking for. So in safe, or in any type of positive training, we use minimally aversive training methods. Minimally aversive, meaning, so whatever the dog doesn't like, as long as it doesn't cause excess fear, excess anxiety, or excess discomfort. Moderating this can be difficult for a lot of non-professionals. In safe, we've selected a moderately low-level, sharp but loud feedback. So it would be something such as ah, or yep, whatever you need to do to let them know that they've done it wrong. So remember, unless your dog is extremely timid, using one of these feedback words won't cause the dog any undue stress or any fear or anxiety. So usually this is going to be enough to let them know, hey, you did that wrong, let's try it again. So this brings us to the effect. This sort of happens in the background, meaning that if the S, A, and F are done enough times correctly, your dog is, the likelihood of that behavior is going to be increased, meaning that your dog is going to do it more often when you ask. This is what we're looking for. So remember, while the theory of safe is pretty simple, the actual practice can be very difficult. So the key is to make sure that the S-A-F is unbroken. So what are some ways that may break it? Well, repeating the signal. So when we say, we're asking our dog to sit, we don't want to say sit, 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 unless we want it to be a command. So basically, we just want to say sit, give them the 3 to 5 seconds, and then give our feedback. Basically, this is going to make sure that you're not constantly saying sit, sit, sit. So we don't want to combine signals either. So we don't want to say Rusty sit. We just want to give them one single word, one single command. Sit. Plain and simple. Another way that the SAF can be broken is by not giving them the 3 to 5 seconds to do for the dog to respond. So another way is not giving the appropriate feedback, whether they did it right or did it wrong, or not giving any feedback at all. We need to make sure that we're giving feedback one way or the other. Lastly, this is not all-inclusive, but the last thing is talking during the SAF. You don't want to say sit and start talking to somebody and then come back to your dog and to give them your feedback. It's 6 seconds tops. So make sure that you're giving your dog your undivided attention during that time, from the point that you actually give them a command. So keep in mind that even if the chain is broken, even if the SAF is broken, learning is taking place. It may not exactly be what we're learning, as the dog will learn that you're not really worth listening to, and I know most of you aren't really looking for that. So if you have any further questions, or if you have any questions at all, please rewind the video, take another look, or contact us at Westlake Canine. Thanks.